ADX is an interesting place. Now, when I was at Hazleton, they initially put me in for the SMOOth program. But they looked at my background, my incident reports. You talking about 20 years, I got 5 incident reports. We talking about making a 3-way call. We talking about an out-of-bounds shot. So the SMOOth program, they saying, man, this guy, he's not no troublemaker. His paperwork don't even meet the criteria for us to accept him. So they denied me. So what the captain dude said, you know what, we're going to put you in for 80. No, he said, we got a message from Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie said that you would be a better fit in ADX, Administrative Max, which is ADX. So I'm like, if I don't qualify for the SMOOth program, how am I qualify for ADX? I learned a valuable lesson. I learned something from experience. I ended up doing my interview over the phone with the guy for ADX. He said one line to me. He said, Mr. Crawford, you qualify to go to ADX. I said, how do I qualify to go to ADX? And I ain't done nothing. He said, because you were doing the same thing you were doing in prison that you was doing before you came to prison. That confused me. I said, huh? He said, the same thing you was doing before you came to prison, you still doing it in prison, so you meet the criteria to go to ADX. I said, man, pardon me, sir, I don't even remember you before I came to prison. I said, so I think you must got the wrong guy. He said, nah, I got the right guy. So come to find out how the process works in ADX is, you don't have to do nothing. You don't have to do anything. They can just use your indictment and say, you know what, this guy's he's an influencer. He's dangerous. He may cause a problem. He can cause an uproar, and they're going to accept you. So they accepted me, and they end up taking me out the Florence, out ADX. So when I get there, they take me through R&D. I'm looking at it like, all right. But now here's where the mind game coming at, the psychological part for me. I just spent 4 years in Hazleton shoe. No TV, no newspaper, no magazines, no pictures, no books, no commissary. They had mattresses this thick. So it was a real messed up type of place to where I'm saying, I got to get out of here. So when I got to ADX, I was happy because I looked at it like this place is for a Hazleton shoe for 4 years prepared me for any situation that they can put me in. So when I get out ADX, I'm like, all right, come on, take me the way I need to go at. So what they did when I first got there, I went through R&D. They seen what I was there for. They seen the shot that I had. What was new, was interesting to me, they took you to medical. They take you to medical, and instead of, like, you know how you go when we travel from place to place, from institution to institution, you go through those x-ray machines. Out ADX, you go through the x-ray machine, then they take you to the infirmary and you go to a doctor and you get on a real x-ray machine. Like the ones that the doctors use, and you got a doctor sitting right there looking in your insides. So we went through that, and I was like, okay, this is part of the experience. So from there, they took me to the intake unit. They took me to C building. How fortunate I was, soon as they take me through C unit, while I'm walking down the tent, while I'm walking down the range, I see this guy looking at me. He's in the cage in the inside rec unit. So I look at him, I said, damn, that guy looks familiar. And then it clicked to me. It was the legendary Wayne Perry. So I'm like, all right. I give him the heads up, the peace sign, and I go on my cell. So once I get in there, I always heard about the TV. So the guy say, look, we ain't going to have no TV for you tonight, but we're going to get you one. So anyway, he ended up bringing me a TV right back. He let me know the protocol. Okay, you get a TV, you get your rectum on, you got outside rec, but he told me this unit you in is kind of like the hole. You're going to stay here for a minute until we find you a regular unit. It was C. I just know it was C unit.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in C unit. That was like the hole / intake unit. So I stayed in C unit for like 2-3 weeks, but the very next day I see the counselors. So the counselors tell me right off the break, all right, look, this is how this works. After 1 year, you're going to be interviewed, and then every 6 months after that, we're going to interview you to see if you're ready to go to the next phase. He said, we see what you're here for. You're here for a 100. You're at least going to do 5 years here before you move to the next phase. I'm like, okay. So then they tell me, we see that you all fine. One thing about ADX, They on that fine stuff hard. You know, like at them other institutions, them other penitentiaries and stuff, you can work around and they gonna work with you about your fine, your institution fine. When I got there, they say, nah, you owe this $950. We not letting you go to commissary until you pay this $950. I needed to get the commissary, so I had to pay the $950. So after a couple of weeks, I ended up moving to another unit. I moved down to D unit. And then I got down there, you know, I met some of the homies. That's where I run into Kevin Gray at. You know, so Kevin Gray, Babyface, a few other of the homies, you know, I got to holler at, spend some time with. And then from there, I was just part of I was in the wheel spinning, just waiting for my 1 year mark so I can do the interview. It's kind of like a parole hearing. So after 1 year, they ask you questions, you know, how you feel about this, how you feel about that. Should we let you out? And what happens is this too, right? It's a program. So you have to program. You got to write essays. You got to do schoolwork. You got to do all this stuff. Me, I'm the type of guy that I wanted to do this stuff. You know, I wanted to do that stuff to keep my mind sharp. So I'm writing the essays. I'm doing the schoolwork. I'm doing the psychological tests. Right? So what they do after your year was up, the warden, he say, write me a letter and explain to me why I should put you in general population. I'm like, that. Okay? At the time, my baby brother had just got killed, and you know they was listening to the phone calls. So when I go on my little interview, we're going to call it the parole hearing. The lady, that's one of the first things she said, man, I apologize about your baby brother. You know, and at that time, it was fresh. I couldn't help the tears from falling out my eyes. You know, and I explained, you know, I go into, that's my baby brother. You know, so she explained to me, she say, look, it's not up to me, it's up to the warden, but we're going to at least keep you for 5 years before you get out of here. She say, but it's not up to me. She say, did you write the letter to the warden? I said, no, I ain't write the letter to the warden. She say, well, write the letter to the warden, telling him why you should get out of here. I wrote the letter, I wrote the warden a 10-page letter, explaining to him why I want to get out of ADX. And one of the things that I wrote at the end of the letter, and I said, one more thing, warden. One of the reasons that you should let me out of here is because I don't want to be here. And that's how I ended the letter. That was on a Thursday. That Monday morning, they told me to pack my bags. I was moving to the step-down unit. So I ended up moving after the 1 year. And that's how I moved to the next phase. Straight like that.
So how long did you do an ADX altogether?
I did. So I did the first year. Then the next phase is supposed to be 6 months. That's J unit. So I did the 6 months in J unit. So now at this time, that's 18 months. So then they moved me across the street to the USP ADX part. I mean, the ADX part that's in the USP floors. So I move over there, and how that works is you spend 6 months upstairs alone in a cell. Then you're supposed to go down 6 months downstairs, but you're supposed to have a cellie so you can be acclimated to living with somebody again. So I did my 6 months upstairs, and then I caught COVID. So when I caught COVID, they put me downstairs by myself. So now I'm doing my 6 months downstairs. That's when Kevin Gray come down there, me and him cellies. We spent some time together. So now my 6 months was up. I started giving away my property and giving information. I'm thinking I'm about to leave. The director of that region denied my transfer. So now that I've been over there 1 year. So I asked, I'm like, why did they deny my transfer? They say, Crawford, they denied your transfer because you made it through the program too fast. They say, man, you here for a 100 series shot, 100. You know, when you just made it through here too fast. He said, that's the only reason that I can explain, because you've been writing the essays, you've been doing the homework, you've been participating with the program. You know, and he said, and I commend you for doing what you're doing, but it's not up to us. It's for the regional director to say if you can go or not. And he says, we just think that the only thing we can come up with is that you done went through this too fast. So I end up staying a whole nother year after that. So that's what, 3.5 years. So I stayed out ADX like 3.5 years and 1 month. So that's how long I was out there. And then last year, that's when they flew me out Victorville. But I was only out Victorville for like a month. And that's when they flew me in. Because I never got charged with the crime. I never was charged with a crime. The incident happened in 2015. I got charged when I was out ADX in 2020. They waited 5 years to charge me. So that's how the process went for me. But I'm gonna tell you this though, right, E? I find solace in being alone. I'm not some guy that needs to talk to somebody all the time. So I was just working on myself, bro. You know, I was just working on myself, getting my mind right. You know, I was praying. You know, I was just trying to evolve because I had too much negativity in me, man. I started thinking like a kid again. I started thinking like I was a teenager again. You know, and that just didn't feel good. Especially when I'm just saying I wanna lead my people to where I wanna encourage my people, and I wanna be a representative of my people. I wanna be a credit to my people. But now I'm thinking these negative thoughts, I got to get rid of it. You know, but it was one. I looked at it. It was a test. You know, like I said, it broke my heart. I'm still hurt today about my baby brother being murdered. You know, but I don't dwell on the negativity of it. I celebrate his life. You know, that he did the things that he wanted to do. He wanted to be a rapper, and from my understanding, he was a pretty good rapper, and he had a lot of fans, a lot of followers, and a lot of friends. You know, so I found a reward in that. You know, and me feeling that, knowing that, it made me once again become grounded and not be filled with the rage and with the hate and just with the negative thoughts. You know, and that was just a test for me, and I got through it, man. And then and I can tell as I evolved with it, it made me a stronger man. I can promise you that. It made me mentally strong. It made me spiritually solid and spiritually free. You know, so that was how that process went for me, man.